So I guess you shouldn't watch The Northman then.
I hated that movie so much, Chris, and I watched 5 minutes of the movie. Like, I got up and I was like angry. I was like I don't even know. I even talking about it, I get so like, I
Hey, Indigo made the beat.
I see that. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Heroes Peak podcast. I'm your host, Chris, and I'm here with my friends, and we're going to talk about entertainment culture and whatever the hell we feel like. And let's introduce the cast first before we get into the nitty gritty. We're going to start behind the scenes. The man, the myth, the legends. It's Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Oh, not too bad. Hanging in there. More tragic news in the States, I see.
Never
Every week
ending.
now.
Never ending.
So,
Speaking of tragedy,
mm,
uh, Miss from California, it's it's Brooks. How you doing?
knew somehow that was coming to me. I'm doing great. I'm still happy to be back on the pod after my small hiatus. And even though there's tragedy in the US, still better than living in Canada.
Oh,
yeah.
shut
I don't think
across
so,
Shots
that
but okay.
fired.
that frozen bow.
Shots fired.
And the man we are currently
Yeah, we can have that debate another day, and you'll get schooled.
oh,
So,
don't talk about schools in Canada. That's not a good thing. All
Yeah.
right. Um. Oh, ouch. All right, I shouldn't have gone there. Sorry. uh. So next, we're gonna talk to the person we're keeping away from the NBA Finals. Not the finals. It's the second round playoffs. What am I doing? It's Keith.
It's
I
the
keep getting this
third
wrong,
round
Keith.
playoffs.
Why do I keep
Third
calling it
round
the
playoffs.
finals?
It's like
Third round playoffs.
I love sports.
It's the Western
I
Conference
love spurts
Finals.
ball.
And Eastern
That's what it's
Conference.
And
called.
It's the
Eastern
conference
Conference.
finals.
It's really just the Eastern Conference Finals. The Western Conference Finals is over.
It's over.
Well,
Uh,
that's what's on tonight.
what's good, folks? Tragedy again. Not a good.
And last on, oh, sorry, last on the crew. Bring it home, James. Why don't you tell us how you're doing, and then be our news anchor for us, please. Sorry.
Um, well, I'll start with a positive note. I just had a milestone birthday a couple days ago. I thought I was doing pretty well for myself until I saw the new Tom Cruise trailer, and I was like, "Fuck, I am not doing well," because this dude beats me by 20 years, and he was some other shit. So I became humble again. Um, Switching gears and some negative news. Obviously, today, the 24th of May, Tuesday, yet another shooting, tragic shooting in one of our locales, but this time it's actually at a school, which hasn't happened in a couple years, and it's on the level of Newtown, Connecticut. As of press time now, about 18 children murdered, one adult, actually two adults, if you include the gunman's grandmother. Um, and as of press time, there hasn't been any official, news from police on the motive and reasons, rationale, which we know we're going to get. I believe President Biden is supposed to speak within the hour to give an update, a national address. But it's like another week in the States, another week in America. You're going to hear certain people on one side go all over social media about it, and hear other people on the other side go counter that. But then ultimately, nothing will be done. You know, there will nothing concrete, I should say, is going to come out of this to prevent yet another tragedy from happening in the future. As a father with at least one younger child who still goes to elementary school, We were just talking about it before I got on the pod. He's expecting to have a school emergency drill tomorrow, and they may do some sort of like practice shutdown. And it's like normal, like, in the state of Jersey where I'm at, they react pretty quickly to things like this. And it's neither a blue nor red state; it's a purple state, depending where you're at. So political kind of falls out the window. But I mean, we shouldn't have to do that. These guys are at the point in their lives they need to be focusing on the next levels of education and testing and standardized testing and what to do, scholastic, academic. Not worrying about tomorrow they're going to cancel practice because there's going to be a gun school, emergency drill, which is now reality. You know, that's just my 2 cents on this. I'll let everyone else, you know, give their piece.
I'll 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 put it up there. Anybody who wants to take a minute and give their thoughts on just the general consensus. We've had the gun discussion before on this podcast a long time ago. Unfortunately, it's a reoccurring topic. We didn't cover Buffalo's tragedy recently. Um, I don't believe we casted that week, and we don't want to go back and cover tragedies weeks after the event. But it's painful to see it. And James, just like you, it's scary. I have a kid, two kids older than in college, one kid still in high school, and it just it doesn't matter. Like you'll see someone accidentally get shot on the street in the news. You'll see someone get shot in school in the news, and all of it's just hurts to see. And you don't know how much time you can spend being scared. How much time you can. We've been home. The kids have been home for 2 years basically, and you're like, yeah, it's kind of nice in a sense that like I didn't really have to worry about it, but now everything's back to normal, and we're back to, do I worry about it? Do I worry about the school bus in the morning? Do I worry about going to work? It's a terrible way to live in this society, and we're kind of stuck in it. And our votes don't seem to be getting us anywhere because we don't have enough consensus throughout the country, or throughout the government. We don't have enough consensus throughout the government that anything resembling an attempt at a solution. Not that we expect the government is going to handle this stuff, but at least attempt. Give us something that feels like we're working towards it. Keith, go ahead.
We pile up, man. You know what? We pile up a lot of stuff on these, like, okay, the government, this innocuous government figure, the government, like, yo, like, it's real people and real citizens' feelings and values and stuff that are behind these politicians. Like, I don't understand why this country loves guns more than it loves kids. And the same people who are, and it's the same exact people who are who've been plotting for years and got all the Supreme Court judges in place that they needed to not their right to lifers, and like everybody every fetus deserves to be alive, and they're so pro life but so anti guns after watching their kids get killed time and time and time again. I don't understand the hypocrisy because it comes from the same voices. I don't understand why y'all what and this country is like man, it's getting weirder and weirder to justify this American exceptionalism that people that we're supposed to walk around with.
Yeah, it definitely, especially when you see it occur. Other countries have made that action, have taken that piece of the puzzle out, and do they have violence? Do they have crime to an extent? but we are the only country where masses of people are consistently murdered by a single person, by a single perpetrator, no matter what their, whether it's terrorism or whether it's mental health. It doesn't really matter what the reason is. If there's no taking away people's ability to do that kind of damage is a smart step to protect your citizens en masse. It just seems like such a.
It's just common sense. Like,
I mean, do you guys remember what happened after Oklahoma City? They basically said you can't buy this kind of fertilizer at this amount without being checked or
yes,
permitted or whatever the
yes,
specifics of it are. And that
yes.
was one massive horrible event, and it was done. Now,
Same with taking off your
Yeah,
shoes
and that wasn't even
and
amount
successful.
of
That shit
liquid
wasn't
you
even
could bring on the
successful.
plane.
right, no liquids. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Restriction.
So
They
I
push
looked
back
up
even
school
against any kind
shootings.
of restriction. Nobody's even taking your damn BS bullshit guns away. Nobody wants.
I looked up school shootings total recorded between like whenever they started recording and 2022 for all countries. These are school shootings. Yeah, school shootings. So the United States has 288 total recorded school shootings. The next highest country is 8.
Yo, let's let's expand that out. And this is without me even looking at the numbers because I know what the numbers are already. Expand that out to gun deaths. Period.
It's yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
wild,
Yo,
just
and it's
wild
funny. The
numbers.
next highest country is nowhere even reasonably close. Like it's laughable.
But we're gonna
Most countries are at
we're gonna
0 for the
Yes.
yeah.
record. Right.
And we're in the tens of thousands. Like it's crazy. It's and we accept it. But that's what's crazier.
Yeah.
We're the
Yeah.
crazy ones. We're crazy.
And I would have thought, okay, once these things spread, once it hits your community, it changes your mind. But then I saw the whole COVID thing, and I saw people losing people within their circles and not changing their minds over something like wearing a mask. And I went, you know what? I don't think we're ever gonna fix anything around here. I think we're done. Like that's it. Like if you can lose, if your best friend's grandparents die and you're like, you know what, they were old, whatever, and someone's parents pass and you're like, I still, that mask is rather uncomfortable, I don't think I'm going to use it. If you're to that level, losing people in your town, we're at 1 million deaths of that. 1 million people died in the United States from this one thing, and we were still fighting tooth and nail over it. Like then you're like, you know what? I don't know if anything's ever going to happen. I don't think we're ever going to have any more positive forward momentum. Uh, it feels like we're done. Like that's it. I think we might just call the whole thing off.
Call the whole thing off.
Call it off. We're
This
done.
American experiment seems to like not be going too well.
It really seems to be
Well, let's
wearing away at the edges. It definitely seems to be wearing away at the edges. Like that's
All right.
crazy to me. That people.
All right, we hate to move on. This is not a topic that's easy to come
And
into and leave.
and as a side note, real quick, you see all the violence, and the violence is increasingly more in schools and this, that, and the other. This is why I say bet on spaces like the metaverse and things virtual being capable replacements for not only the socialization, not only the education and the entertainment, but the socialization element, safety, safety, keeping humans away from
Interesting.
each other.
We will get into some of that with today's review, which is Everything Everywhere All at Once. But I think
So
Yeah.
I got one
Oh,
thing I want to add before we
I'm sorry,
move
Mike.
on.
We didn't get to you.
Texas.
I'm sorry.
Say
I'm
again.
sorry we didn't get to you. Go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
no, you're fine. No, just a couple comments about Texas, which is a permitless carry, open carry state. And the argument on from them is always, well, the good guy with the gun will stop the bad guy with the gun. Where the fuck was the good
Oh, they're
guy
gonna say
there?
that. Oh,
Is that
Right?
a legit real
they're
argument?
gonna
Yeah.
say
Of
Constantly.
course,
they're
all
gonna
the
say the
time.
issue is that the teachers weren't armed. That's what they're gonna say. That the
Yeah.
Yeah, of
problem
course, that
would have
too.
been arming the teacher, then she would have been able to John Wayne the situation, and everybody would have been alive
I think it'll be.
Yeah, but from what I'm reading right now, is apparently the cops were already chasing him or something, and he ran into
and
the
just
school, and there were already school officers there too.
Well,
So
like in Buffalo,
I don't know. All the details are emerging,
The
right?
guy shot the armed guard at the door,
like first.
like or whoever
He
it was.
shot him
Right.
first.
Right,
he, he
and
got shot
uh,
first.
and I
Yeah, it's just a
It's a
stupid
dumb
argument, right?
argument.
Because
When somebody
Governor
is going to
Abbott is a
be
moron.
crazy enough to pull out a gun and start shooting people, even if everybody around has a gun,
Yeah,
somebody's going to get hit with that gun from that crazy person.
well, and we've seen that people
yeah,
if they have a gun in their car and they go into road rage incident, they're more likely to use that gun. A lot of gun deaths come from suicide, which only happens because the person has access to a gun. People have suicidal thoughts with or without. They try with or without, but they're more successful, unfortunately, when they have a gun and they have easy access. You know, um, uh, domestic violence more likely to end up in death. I think the highest the most likely way for a pregnant woman to die is by her significant other having a gun. If I'm not
Jesus.
mistaken, I read that today.
yeah. That sounds right.
It makes it easy, and that's the problem. Like, no, we're not saying no one will ever die again. No one will ever commit a crime, but you reduce the aggregate. You reduce the likelihood of a short fuse turning into a big tragedy. All right.
Yes, it doesn't happen in Australia. It's not happened in New Zealand for since they enacted their laws. It doesn't happen up here.
All right.
So, and the difference
There's
is gun
global
control.
examples. There's global examples to follow. There's
Yeah.
examples to follow. We just won't.
Mm-hmm. All right. Like I said, I hate moving on. These are tough, long term discussions, longer than a 5 minute thing. Um,
Yeah, let's take a quick
yeah, we'll take a
2 minute
quick
break,
break.
and then we'll come back.
We're
What
Are
gonna
we
trailer
talk
going
the
movie?
Thor Love
into?
and Thunder trailer, and then everything, everywhere, all at
Yeah.
once. Sorry, there goes the dryer. Dryer beep
Right on
just as
time.
the thing.
Yeah.
Right on
All right.
time.
So, welcome back, everybody. We will be watching the Thor Love and Thunder trailer. A few people have not watched it. And it, as you expect, it's the fourth Thor film starring Chris Hemsworth and what's her name?
Natalie
Shit,
Portman.
I blanked.
What's her
Natalie
name?
Portman. Yeah,
That's fine.
what's her name? That lady.
She's
Only
only an
yeah, it doesn't
Oscar
matter.
winner.
I mean, she hasn't been in
Crying out
Directed
movies in a
loud.
while, so.
by Taika Waititi. Um, and yeah, let's take a look at this thing. So yeah,
All right, here we
this
go.
is after Endgame. So
I loved
Korg is always
Korg,
good.
man. Korg is one of my favorites. Korg. I need Korg, and is it Miguel from Ant Man to tell a
Oh
story?
yeah.
That would be awesome.
I think the costumes look really good in this. Fun, bright.
Yeah, it looks like so. Yeah, my question is, who put Meow Meow back together,
Yeah.
right?
I got my theories on that one.
Yeah,
Bam.
Yeah, Natalie
Yeah,
looks
she
great
really
there.
put on she put
Yeah.
on the muscle.
Yeah.
Unlike Captain
Well, actually,
Marvel.
both.
So
Well, it's visually appealing
so
so
Hmm.
far.
Hmm.
Keep watching.
so where are we thinking that location they were just showing? Where do
I
we
have
think that
no
I think
is?
that's
idea.
where the Zeus gods, the Greek gods, are at.
Olympus.
Ah, okay. And here we see the God Killer.
Christian Bale back in the
In
comic book superhero world.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the comics he has no
Yeah.
nose, so I'm glad they didn't do the Voldemort thing with him. To be honest,
Yeah,
Mhm.
he does
those
look pretty
Damn.
scenes.
scary though.
Yeah, but he looks
Yeah.
like
Russell
his normal
Crowe,
body build. He didn't beef up.
right?
It's like everybody doesn't
So
have.
is this supposed to
Yeah,
be
that's
Zeus here
Zeus.
Yeah, Russell Crowe
coming
plays
up?
Zeus,
Right. Forgot about that.
The
Yeah, we got this little snippet
and
at the
there's
end here with the
oh
naked
yeah, this
Thor.
part. This is where my workout guys start talking about.
man, he is just full buff.
He's taking that Tran.
It knocks everybody out.
I know what sauce he's taking. That's the high caliber
so
Hollywood
the one thing
sauce.
we were so one thing we were missing from this one, as opposed to the first one we got a lot more Guardians.
Yeah,
Remember,
Hmm.
we had more clips of the Guardians, and this one
I have
not
a
so
this
feeling
one
much.
we
they're
found. We finally
That
got the villain, the antagonist, Gore, the God
Mhm,
Butcher, played by Christian Bale.
Right?
mhm.
Yeah.
he looks like Voldemort from
Well, that's
Harry
what I'm saying.
Potter.
In the
Which
comics,
is
that character has no
Yeah.
nose, and he makes it look
He
even
looks more
more like
Voldemort than
Voldemort. So yeah,
Mhm.
I think that probably went into their decision because he's got like these long, weird ears, like bunny ears almost, but they're just like long and hang down tentacle bunny ear things. And we've had a lot of noseless villains as of late. I don't know if it's just
that's true.
recently.
Why is that?
It's scary. It's different. Like, oh my god, he's got no nose. Like, I don't know.
But,
Yeah.
mhm.
There's a.
Run!
It's a
Look, if I see somebody with no nose,
I
I'm
think there should
running.
be
So
so
it's
someone needs
standard.
to do a parody of someone running around stealing villain noses.
I've got your nose.
That was
Scaring all
actually
the
a funny
babies.
dad joke.
Oh, thank you.
Don't get us
Finally.
going. I'm not quite at the Giannis level of dad joke yet.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it
So
looked
Yeah,
interesting.
did you?
yeah, we saw Korg, we saw Valkyrie, we saw Lady
Uh,
Thor.
Brooks and Keith, you,
Is that officially what they're calling her? Lady
it's
Thor,
Mighty
Natalie
Thor.
Portman.
And Brooks and Keith, have you
my
seen the last? You saw the last Thor Ragnarok, correct?
yeah,
Okay.
Yes, I
yeah.
loved
All
that
right.
movie.
So this is by the same director, all the same main cast. What are you guys thinking? What do you guys are you
Yeah.
guys interested, excited?
I'm
I'm
definitely.
excited.
I'm. I don't know that I'm excited, but I'm glad I'm not. Like I'm interested. I mean, if it's an MCU movie, I'm gonna go see
Hmm.
it. Period. Like you stand that. You know what I'm saying? It's already gonna get seen. Um, I like that it doesn't super excite me. I don't feel. I don't feel. I don't feel like the. Although I enjoyed the trailer, I didn't feel like it blew me away. Which now, how I look at movies, that's actually a good thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I'm finding those trailers that like are really kind of like, boom, blah, blah, this is the funniest thing ever. It's gonna be the best thing ever, and it just generally they just generally don't deliver. But I'm not really expecting much though. It, I like Thor Ragnarok. It was entertaining for me,
Hmm.
but I'm not gonna say it was the height of like cinematic adventure, like,
We
or I
agree
should
to
say in
that.
the MCU, in the MCU world, I should say.
Yeah, I think most people
The
dig it for it's differentiating itself from others. It's very comedy
again,
focused compared to others.
again, separate lane. It just it comes off as his own comic
Hmm.
book.
Hmm.
That's like This is his comic book. He's a comedian, so this is like a comedic line, kind of like it's a comedic series of movies, or he's a comedic. He's given a comedic product
Mm-hmm.
lane to the MCU, and I like
I
that.
agree.
I enjoy that. Um, I have fun with those movies. I think even though Ragnarok of itself isn't like in anywhere near my top three favorite of the MCU's, it does have probably one of my top three scenes.
Oh yeah, I know it's.
Ooh, like the rock god joint when he jumps from the plane, like and the music in the back.
Yes.
Loved it.
I was just looking it up because I was interested. The last Thor Ragnarok, made 850 million total at the box office,
Damn.
worldwide. Um, so
Only?
only $850 million worldwide.
Which is not a lot for a Marvel MCU movies of a
Well,
top tier
I think
character.
that's it's a slightly
For
above.
DC, they would be like,
It's
because
slightly
Batman didn't even make
it's
that.
slightly above average,
It's
for
above Batman. The
MCU.
Batman, you know that, right?
Yeah,
The
but
Batman's sitting at seven and change.
the top movies will make the full billion. The Black Panthers, the Captain Marvels, and all of the team ups. Every team up made $1 billion straight. Um, so yeah, right now, for anyone who's interested, because I was interested, Doctor Strange is at 800 million worldwide, and it's on track. It's on the Captain America Civil War track. So if that holds steady, it'll make its $1 billion in about
Mm.
14 days, somewhere around there.
Damn.
If it
Yeah.
stays on track, assuming. I mean, it's. But yeah, that's what we expect. So, do you guys think, with this being, do you think we're on the upswing? Do you think this will do better than the last one? People know what to expect out of Taika Waititi now. Do you think they'll
I
get
think
a
it will.
bit bigger?
I think it
I think
will.
it.
I think it will.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think it's more so if it stays on track with the product that we were given. I think now we know the
Mm-hmm,
product.
mm-hmm.
So like this next thing, like we're walking into it differently. So the director has a much better opportunity to kind of like just give us his movie now.
And it looks like everybody in the
Well,
cast looks hot. Like the whole thing looks
Yeah,
great.
yeah, definitely a sexy.
I mean, you're gonna draw Thor fans, you're gonna draw Guardians fans, you're gonna draw Christian Bale fans to the movie. So there's gonna be a whole lot of people
And
interested in
Taika
seeing
Waititi
this,
fans.
and people who are fans of Ragnarok.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? They'll
all of
definitely
New
come see
Zealand.
this one. Hmm.
All right. So that comes out July 8th. I believe it comes out just the week before the end of Miss Marvel series, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around
Mm.
Oh, okay.
there. It's just like this last one. Doctor Strange came out just before the end of Moon Knight, which is weird crossover. They're not giving their series endings like a week to breathe. They're like crossing the streams a bit.
Too much content, just pushing it out.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe they're like, you know what? It doesn't matter how good our finales are. We'll just we'll get the big movies and we'll keep going. All right. So next, that's it for Thor: Love and Thunder. We will now move on to a real
We're gonna take a break, and then when we come back,
more
we can do
multiverse content,
our
more multiverses.
More multiverse.
All right. We'll be right back with everything, everywhere, all at once. All right, greetings,
Oh yeah.
everybody. We're back and we're here to talk about the new movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Um, in theaters now. Go watch this thing. It is a 2022 R-rated action, adventure, comedy, sci-fi, a little bit of everything. It's a great four quadrant film, I think they call it. This was written and
Mm-hmm.
directed by the two Daniels, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. Um,
Daniel
they pretty
LaRusso.
much small indie directors up until now. What I mean, this is closer to an indie movie by budget, but product. This is definitely closer to blockbuster. This is now A24, who's this production house. A24's highest domestic grossing movie, and it's currently around $61 million domestic. Now, obviously, we were
Wow.
just talking hundreds of millions of dollars more with MCU, but this is a real out of nowhere released to like 20 theaters initially kind of movie. So this is a great story of a small filmmakers making something really interesting, very new and fresh, and being rewarded for it.
Is this an original IP, Chris? This is
This is
original writing,
absolutely
original.
original. They wrote this thing. I've been listening to. They're really fascinating to listen to. If you go around and they're giving interviews all over the place, they just literally from a the speck of an idea of these two bouncing shit off of each other, jokes and stuff into this
See, Keith, this could have been us.
fully fleshed out movie. And I just listened to one today
Speaking.
where they talked about the initial idea is almost nothing like what they came out with. And that's how far these guys take these ideas and move and massage and until they come out with this. It's really interesting to listen to them. So this movie stars let's see here, Michelle Yeoh. I believe this is her first American lead role. Amazing. How I don't know how it's taken this long. Stephanie Zhu, K Hugh Kwan. You'll know him from Indiana Jones and from The Goonies when he was like 12.
Mm.
He's been behind the camera for 20 years because, well, Hollywood. I mean, good. Glad he was behind the camera. Unfortunately, he wasn't allowed. He couldn't find work in front of the camera. And James Hong and Jamie.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
You've heard of this. You've seen this, right? You know what that is.
It is unavoidable. It is your destiny.
Is this not why you are here?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Knock that shit off.
So, how we're going to talk about this movie? So, I'm going to give a quick little synopsis, and then we're going to talk about it by themes this time, because what I found really interesting about this movie is how deep this movie went. It wasn't so much just like, oh, let's do an action movie and it's exciting to watch and blah blah blah. This thing was just like so many things had your brain exploding with all this stuff they were talking about. It was so good. So it's a Michelle Yeoh is a Chinese immigrant who is running her small business, and it's that business is being audited. She's caring for an elderly father who she fears about disappointing. She's bossing. I hate to use the word bossing, but bossing around her husband, who's always deferring to her. He's kind of played as this soft, kind of weak-willed guy at first, and she's having a failure of connection with her adult daughter. So you kind of have this around specifically around the daughter's sexuality. So you start the movie and you have this woman just like in life. Like that was the interesting thing. The first hour just felt like, oh, so this is like a normal person with all this stuff going around and all these problems. And so we're going to start with the theme of communication. Like because we start the movie and her and her daughter are kind of talking past each other, and then her and her husband are going back and forth between Chinese and English, and then she talks to her father in a different form of Chinese, and then her daughter can't talk to her grandfather in Chinese because he specifically says how terrible her Chinese is. Like all of this talking around each other, like nobody's really communicating. Her daughter's trying to talk to her, and she's talking about her business and about her dad. And the husband has like these divorce papers, but he's not really into. He's just trying to get his wife's attention to talk to him about it, and he can't get her attention. She's worried about the audit. So around the theme of communication, what did you guys think? How did you guys feel about this movie? I'm gonna start James.
Um, I thought this movie kind of revealed the dichotomy of us as a social construct, where at times we think we we know what the other person is thinking, and we think that we're having a conversation about the same things, but in reality, that person, like for example, the husband wife relationship, he has a totally different viewpoint of what he believes that she wants and desires and what she wants to do. And so does she. Like she thinks that they were really happy, content with the business. In reality, he felt like he was stifled. Um, it's just it kind of it unveils the fact that communicate, like to your point about the theme of communication. There's no such thing as real true communication in a typical relationship unless you actually peel back the onions and go through like the nitty gritty, which in their relationship particularly that never happened. For a bunch of different reasons, which you don't really get
Mm-hmm.
until you watch the entire movie. Why the two of them weren't really communicating.
And we're gonna
There's
do
also
spoilers, so go ahead,
yeah, this is all
everybody.
spoilers, and I don't want to get into the nitty gritty, but there's also communication between a mom and a daughter, communication between the mom and the parent, the father. It's like a whole cascading effect of not being able to really express your thoughts and desires and your wishes, and how it backfires on you, and how you create your own enemy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
literally, you create your own enemy because of the failed relationship and communication with your daughter. Spoiler and that. So that's to me, it was just like every other thing. I don't know what your themes are, but I feel like everything that I've watched in this movie is just much like vomiting what's actually happened in the real world as a human being, what I've gone through in my life, which I didn't expect the movie that's supposed to be sci-fi, multiverse. It made me more introspective about shit that I do and I think and I do in my life and how I don't really pay attention to a lot of that stuff. You know, weird
I
shit.
always.
So
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
yeah, just to add on to that there's an interesting perspective about so you had basically three generations there. You had her dad and her and the kids, and three generations of different traditions, right? The dad being holding on to the most of the old world traditions, the mom being in the middle of the old world and her
Trying to bridge
daughter's
the
new
two.
world growing up
Yeah.
in America, and then the daughter's trying to say, we do things differently, and it's so typical of a lot of immigrant families, right? So you kind of get that conflict there, and people not understanding where the other one's coming from, right?
Yeah, it's
So
just it's amazing, and just on what James said, sci-fi, the best sci-fi movies that we've watched kind of do this, and the other ones they're cool stories and they're cool, and they're like, oh, but
Popcorn.
there's
Yeah.
like an underlying theme of
You
racism or
shut your
whatever,
brain. You just
right?
like, woo, enjoy the ride.
But ones like this are few and far between that actually, like, you're sitting there and all of a sudden I'm like, just like, oh shit, like I'm feeling what this person's feeling. It doesn't
Yes.
take a long, it's not after review, it's like, it's while you're watching it, it's all there. um
yeah,
Brooks, I'm gonna give
exactly.
you the floor.
Um, I'll stay on the subject of communication. Obviously, it felt like not just communication, but also like understanding. Like nobody wanted to
Yeah.
understand anybody else in the family. Um, that wasn't it. I mean, like you guys all said, it felt like almost like a typical family dynamic in a lot of ways. Maybe I shouldn't say typical, but a family
No,
dynamic
say
in a
it.
lot of
Say
ways
it. I
where
related to this a lot, but go ahead.
Yeah, I've talked to my kids like that. You're kind of talking about
but you know what
something
I mean?
while
Like,
they're trying to talk to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, nope, it almost felt like everybody was committed to not understanding the other person. There was just like, and especially the mom and daughter, or maybe that's just the thing that I related
Hmm.
to. But, there was one scene where the mom goes over and it's like she almost like wanted to say something else, but she looks at the daughter and she's just like, "You're fat. Stop eating too much,"
Mm-hmm.
and
At the
whatever the other thing was,
at the car door where she stops her, like, yeah. Mm.
Yeah. And it was just like, it felt like there could have been a moment between them where the mother says something or tries to understand the daughter, because the daughter, I think at that point she was trying to invite her girlfriend to a party,
Hmm.
but like wasn't communicating, and so it almost felt like, oh, there could have been this moment of understanding and kind of a breakthrough in communication, and instead she was like, you're fat. um and it was like, it's too hard to, it's, you could see that, like, it's hard to communicate correctly, or it's hard to like understand another person, and so instead of like doing it, you're like, okay, I'm just going to insult them, or I'm going to not understand you, or I'm going to talk around you, and that just becomes like a habit. And you could kind of like see that because they were like an established family, so you can see like this is just how their dynamic has been for however many years, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, there was an interesting point where they used the different languages to kind of reinforce those points, because she's trying to get her mom to tell her dad, to tell the grandfather that she has a girlfriend, and the
Hmm.
mom will specifically say things like, she called the girlfriend a he, and she goes, mom, it's a she. And she goes, Chinese, it's the same word, so it doesn't matter. Like, she was specifically
Right.
using the language to avoid communicating the way the daughter wanted or expected. And the mother was like, well, I don't really want to say it, so I'm just going to use an excuse not to say it.
Mhm.
All right, Keith, go ahead. I'm going to
Yep.
go to you.
It occurs to me that she, after all that, that she was the only one that went through what it was that she went through. The daughter, the daughter, and the original daughter,
Hmm.
and the original husband.
So Evelyn and Waymond are the characters, just so everyone knows. Yeah.
Yes. Hmm. Now they don't know. They don't know what it was that she was going through,
Hmm.
right? It's weird to me. Like, I kind of look at the whole thing as like all going on in her head.
It seems like it could. It easily, like.
That's what I kind of took from it. Like it literally like was her coming to terms with all of that. Only because at the end of it, she's really the only one affected. Like the growth, the whatever, the this, that, and the other, whatever that comes on the other side of all that was really just hers to get. The understanding, like it's either she was the like it almost looks like she was the problem, and it was her psyche trying to figure out how to fix the problem or get her to not be the problem anymore. Yeah, like it just seemed to me like a wild mental journey in her head.
Well, as the movie moves forward into the more sci-fi aspects, and we get, obviously we'll continue these other themes, but we get to the more wild events, but we start stacking on themes that help along with this communication. So we're going to talk about, as the multiverse, as we start to get introduced to this multiverse, and Evelyn's journey to being the only one who can stop this evil uh, from destroying the entire universe. We get to meet Evelyn's alternative lives. And so the next theme I wanted to talk about was like what ifs and regrets, and kind of related to Evelyn's hobbies, as we get to hear that Evelyn has tried to do a bunch of different things as
Oh,
businesses,
this is a
and
good one.
constantly failed.
Can I
She's the
hit this one
failure.
first, Chris? Can I hit
Yeah.
this one first?
So I just wanted to note,
So
yeah, just
yeah,
that.
so
Go
I
ahead.
mean the communication theme is cool to talk about, but to me this is where I really get into the heart of, well, one of two things, the heart of this movie. So those of us, I think most of us watched Loki, the
Mm-hmm.
TV show, and something I did like about that show, why I think that show was better than WandaVision, is it actually challenged the point of view of what if you have different paths in life, that you could have taken for bad or for worse, and where would that ultimately land you? Would you still be the same person, like the whole nature versus nurture? Would you be different? How different would you be? These are things that some people go to sleep at night and they're thinking, what if I didn't take this job? What if I had done this? What if I've done that? Gone with this spouse or whatever. This movie takes it to a much bigger level than Loki did because it shows you all her different versions of all her dreams and desires. She was an opera singer. She was an actor. She was this, that. She didn't buy the restaurant. Um, and this, the prime, I'm calling the prime, let's just call her the prime version, the
Hmm.
main character, was probably the worst version of herself. Yet she had the most potential, which is interesting.
She was
Which is
specific with
interesting
that.
to think the worst version of you that exists somewhere out there is probably the highest potential of yourself, you know?
Of course, because like, there's nowhere to go
But
but up.
up. Thank you, Keith. It
Hey,
goes
that's
back to
what my
the.
mother said. She said I had the most potential.
You mentioned the movie, the one with Jet Li, which is actually, they kind of touched on this, but in a really dumb and popcorn way. Um, I thought that it drove that story home to me when she ultimately decided what she realized how to, save her daughter and what she needed to do. Uh, Again, it goes back to the whole self introspective nature of this movie.
Mhm.
I thought that theme was done well. The what ifs. It wasn't too comic book. It wasn't too time travel y. It wasn't too sci-fi. I mean, yeah, they do some shit like people with hot dog fingers, whatnot. Yeah, that was comical, but regardless of that, it had me thinking a lot, which I normally don't do in movies like this. Is there's a variant of me, another universe, that did something different, and I'm wondering what he did and whether it worked out for him.
All right, I'm gonna give Mike a shot here. What did you think along the lines of regret, like what ifs, what could have beens? I mean, she specifically looked after one of them. She specifically looked at her husband and go, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't have gotten married. That was rough. That was rough to see."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm with James here. Like, I don't have much to add except, I think everybody goes through this at some point in their life, like the what if phase, right? Like the regret part and realizing, well, this is what I have now. Let's make the best of it, right? So, and they did a great job portraying that in this movie. Like even the even the when they were just rocks sitting on the
Oh,
top of the
Dude, that was
mountain,
a powerful. I laughed, but then I
Yeah,
felt that shit was serious as hell.
it was very zen. Yeah. So some great moments for
Fucking great
in
writing.
philosophical
mhm.
thinking there for how what life is about, right?
All right,
So
Keith. Any thoughts on the ideas, just the expanse of the what ifs that they went through?
Like, I, that's actually, and not to jump back to my original point, but like that's what makes me feel like this was all going on inside her head, only because like the randomness, the randomness of the actual others that she pulled from and jumped, like, I'm saying, like it just, that randomness to me was purposeful. Like it was a purposeful plot tool. um but yeah, I there's something about it from the, and I watched it, like I watched half one day and half the next day, and it really, it's funny. The second day, like I'm looking at I'm watching the movie, and it's just like coming across to me like this is really feeling like this is something playing. You know what it reminded me of? There was a um Mr. Robot, and the whole thing is, it was just giving me like the randomness and the way things were just changing so quickly, and this and it just, and that nobody else was affected at the end of this whole this long movie dream sequence. Like you're the only one really that's left affected by the experience as everybody walks away. It just led myself to the like. I just felt like you had a manic episode. Where the show began, you had a manic episode in at the tax collector, and all of that, like, you know what I'm saying. And the rest of the movie is about this mental manic episode that you just had and that you came out of at that point.
Yeah, there's
But
this thing about her finally understanding the people around her that almost solves all of, not solves the
it's so
issues, but like connects them deeper and makes them work better when it's really just her understanding and her expressing the understanding. I see what you're saying, too. Brooks.
Um, I think on this particular theme, I think it was interesting to see like the different paths she could have taken and how these like seemingly glamorous like life, like when she was the movie star and she thought like, oh, this is it. Like I could have done this and this would have been the greatest thing. And then you see her getting handcuffed and like having to answer to a person and it's like, is it really, kind of the whatever. And I know that then tied into like her getting handcuffed at the IRS place, but it's an interesting call out or perspective to say like you think you want to do all of these things or you think like, oh, I could have done this and like had I not made this choice a long time ago, but like it's not, it's not this like fairy tale version of what you think it's going to be. There's always like a a bad, not bad side, but there's always like the other side of things. And that part was interesting to me.
It's funny because I was like, is that this universe? That's just like Michelle Yeoh, like movie star, right? Like I was like,
Yeah,
And
for
then
a
they
second I
showed
thought they
some
were
of her
doing
movies
really
that she's
meta. Yeah.
in.
when I did hear
Yeah.
during one podcast that they wanted to put her name on it and make it this universe that she was in, and that she didn't want that.
Ah,
She wanted the character to have that growth and it to be its
yeah.
own thing, not
mm,
so. I found that interesting. All right.
Mm.
So yeah, it this thing just gripped me every time, and especially just Michelle Yeoh's performance in every step of the way, showing you like it wasn't just okay. How fast can she find the kung fu fighter that can win this? That wasn't the win. She found that it did some cool stuff. It was an awesome. She did some awesome stuff. But it was funny because it was like, hey, the sign spinner is actually what you need right now. Like you just need a sign spinner and you're good to go, right? Or and the one moment where she accidentally connected to the sausage fingers and she's trying to fight and she's like, okay, that doesn't work. So it was like great use, and as an actor, she did a great job showing that emotional range for that character. All right,
she got the
go ahead.
she got the signs killed though.
Yeah, I think a lot of them seem to die. I'm not sure. There's some questions about that. All right, my last theme I specifically wanted to talk about.
Oh,
This has to deal as much with the daughter and as with the mother, because the daughter is the main antagonist, and that's the generational issue and nihilism specifically, and that is this thought that there, because this vast universe exists, you don't mean anything, nothing matters, it nothing matters at
okay.
all,
You're
and
tying to what I was hoping you hear to
the
continue.
the daughter's problem with the mother as was as much communication, but also she wasn't getting that connection. And the interview with the writer directors was about um connecting Joy, the daughter, to her generation, in that they are growing up with such immense such a connection to immense amount of knowledge and to the world with the internet, that there's so much going on. You see people doing great things, doing terrible things, you, death, destruction, but like you're living your life every day. Like it just doesn't matter. Like this whole idea of does anything really fucking matter? And just that feeling, that loss. And so the daughter, uh, spoiler, becomes this evil, but she's not really evil. She's just looking for a world where she can connect with somebody who feels the same way, and she can never get her mother to this point until
Yeah.
until she gets her mother to this point. Then they have that final connection. Then we have some resolution. Um, James, you said you were thinking in
Yeah.
the same direction.
Yes, not exactly, but bigger than the previous theme that we were just talking about. I think to me, the number one, what I took from it, from my opinion, is the state of existence. Right? Do we matter? Like you said, why do we matter? Why don't we matter? Does anything mean? Does anything make a difference? As I was watching this movie, I harkened back to some memories in my childhood. Some dark times are going on through my life, and I always wondered, what if I took myself out of the equation of this human life experience? Where would that, like, what would be the repercussions of that moving forward to people immediately close to me, people in the peripheral of my life, and then so forth and so forth. And watching this movie, you realize that whether you know it or not, we're all connected, right, in a human web and this life and existence. And while we're watching this movie, we're obviously focusing on the mother and the daughter per se, because the mother basically creates the daughter because of lack of communication, all the other things we talked about. But that actually has an effect on the world itself and the multiverses. So to me, watching this movie and then living through my life now as an adult makes me think back, the steps that I took to get to that very moment in time to watch this movie. What did I create from that? The birth of Heroes Peak, or whatever, friends, kids, all that stuff. It again, a movie that makes me think about shit that I didn't think about as me thinking about watching this movie. Like, we do matter, whether we want to admit it or not. We may not know exactly to the fullest, until end of our days and end of time. But this movie kind of reminds you, no matter how gigantic and how much distractions happening in the world, you as a state of being, whether you're a little rock that's there or like whatever, you have a purpose. Probably a little highbrow, but that's what I took. That was my favorite part, my theme that I took out of the movie.
Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I just found that, like, in the end, it's. I mean, we had the huge bagel, the everything bagel, not just an everything bagel, right? And in the grand scheme of the universe, yeah, it does it really matter? But in your life, it's really sometimes it's just the little things, right, that go a long way, and how you care for those around you, and how those around you care for you, right? So, and that's what makes life worth living. So, I mean, that was my takeaway from this, and that, again, definitely gives you a lot to think about, right? So,
Keith, the nihilism. Did it get you? Did it interact with your brain the way it did with James?
Um, I think the nihilism for me it created a tool that presented a sense of urgency. Like, the idea of, like, oh, like, she's coming to destroy everything, like the destruction of this, the death, she's bringing death. Like, it's like I viewed it as a tool for her, like, to hurry up and learn these lessons that she needs to learn. Like, kind of like, it's the thing that's driving her emotionally to seek the mental changes that she needs to make, and to make the awarenesses that she needs to become aware of, and the things that actually need to happen for her to speed up the process of becoming that the product that we got at the end of the movie. But so like I think that the idea of so much like destruction and death and this is the end of everything and blah blah was to create some urgency. You like to create a tool for some urgency.
Yeah, it definitely felt like it was a hey, this is something urgent going on in the daughter's life, and I'm not quite seeing what it is or what she's seeing. And she definitely had to come around through all of the other randomness to see it from the daughter's perspective. And when the daughter was able to get her there, they it could create this final like, oh shit, now I'm starting to see things from your perspective. It gives me a better tool to communicate with you. Whereas before they didn't have that. They were just looking past each other. And suddenly the daughter was able to finally find a way to get her to see what she was seeing. I'm gonna give Brooksy a shot here.
Yes, Brooksy.
I feel like we've just skipped over like the dildo scene and the butt plug scene and like
That's
Oh,
all
that's a wild card.
all of
the
these
action comedy bits
weird
that build
things.
on the themes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get to the fun stuff. We, we went deep.
The dildo
We
scene.
went deep like the butt plug did.
Oh God, yeah, there was a whole scene about that.
Yeah, man, there was some crazy.
That was
There's some crazy
So
stuff. We just like. I really like. I know we're doing a spoiler, but I don't want to give too much of that away. Like people need to experience this for
yo
themselves. You know
man,
what I
that
mean?
was disturbing.
Like some of these scenes that go on, it's just like
so
wow.
there is a
You
premise,
know?
just so you know what we're talking about. There's a premise that in order to connect with an alternate universe, you have to do something that's uh, out of character or specifically like low probability you would ever do that. And so some of the things that people do for this creates uh, action, creates comedy, creates effects. It's very weird, but it's fun. Um, but unless Brooksy, you specifically want to talk about something like that, I'm going to give you the floor.
It I will say like it those like parts of the scenes, it just got a little like out there for me. It kind of made it hard for me to like stick to the themes and like really relate to the movie in a way, like that the butt plug scene, I was like, what are we doing? And
The
like
dude was flying too. He came over the top.
right.
Like a
Yo,
It was
WWF
like
move.
it just was like, I don't know, like, and I don't even mean it in like a conservative way, like that. It just was like, why does this need to happen? It was so like, it was just certain things were like so out there. At one point, I think they were like eating their like hot dog hands, or there
Oh,
was
that was
like
that I
ketchup and
found more
mustard
disgusting
coming.
was the licking of the hot dog
Yeah, no,
fingers.
that was gross.
that
Yeah,
was
I
that
agree.
was definitely
Like
weird.
the beating with the
Like,
dildos.
but again,
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, the randomness to which they pick which actual universes
You
to
realize
to
that's
show up.
that
Yeah.
means,
This seems like the randomness that will go on in somebody's
except
head.
Keith,
Like
you know that means that within that woman's head, those things are there. So those kind of event, those kind of make for an
Yeah,
interesting
which is
thought
tough for
pattern.
me to believe her character had any thoughts like that based on what we learned about her. The first half of the movie.
Yeah. So I don't believe this was a whole. This was a dream
Uh,
thing.
I
So
I
I'm
don't know.
not
There's
with you on
there's
that.
lots of ways you can go with this. I was if you ever
I think it was a manic. I think it was a manic
if
break.
anybody gets a chance, definitely listen to the creators of this. They're very interesting to listen to. They do have a specific sense of humor that's James Gunn esque, if you will. Um,
Yeah. If you're interested, they also did a movie called Swiss Army Man with
oh
Daniel
yeah, that's right.
Radcliffe. So if that's also definitely a
Hmm.
weird, funny movie. He gets trapped on an island. He finds a dead
And he
body,
uses the
and he uses it like a Swiss Army knife as different tools to help escape the island.
and
Yeah,
and
it's oh my
Daniel
gosh.
Radcliffe, Harry Potter himself, is the dead body.
Right, yeah, it's the other guys. Who was I forget who
It's the
else was in it,
Joker,
but
right? Or
yeah,
not the Riddler.
but
Isn't it the Riddler guy who plays the Riddler?
Yeah,
oh,
Paul
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 Dano.
Dano,
Dano.
Paul Dano, right? But the Daniel Radcliffe character talks to him throughout the movie, doesn't he? If I
Mm-hmm.
remember, like
Like
he's
he's in
not
his
really
head talking
talking,
to
but
him.
it's
Mm-hmm. All right.
yeah, and he's in his head, right? Oh man, yeah. So these guys
Yeah.
definitely have a
So
So
I
weird
maybe
do want to
history.
call
Keith's
out.
theory's right then. Okay.
One thing I want to call out before we go to
Grades.
grades is one thing that was super interesting to me was the husband, and we didn't talk about that because normally in this kind of thing you get okay, this is a story about mother communicating with her daughter and some of the other people around her, and things in like Turning Red and other movies, the dad or the husband tends to get like one scene and then like that's it, like he just gets to be supportive in the background. But the character here, why do I keep calling him Malcolm Waymond, gets a solid, he gets to be really good and gets a lot of spots to do some good acting. um and a specific
And a great fight scene with a fanny pack.
that thing,
Yeah, that was
top
that was dope.
notch.
That
That
was
was
that's
dope.
dope.
Yeah,
that's Jackie Chan, like best Jackie Chan
yeah.
style. But also just like he plays multiple characters, just like Michelle Yeoh gets to play multiple characters, where he gets to be this kind of sweet, um, behind the scenes kind of guy, and then
Lovable husband, which he wasn't
right,
in the Prime universe.
Right.
and then he's like the tough fighter, kick ass, trying to your recruiter to the military stuff, like, and then he gets one where he's just like this suave, where she's the movie star and she's like, oh, I guess I didn't need my husband, and then he shows up and
Yeah,
he's like
dapper,
in the
cleaned up.
suit and tie,
Yeah, he's
cleaned
cleaned up
Successful.
up,
pretty well.
He's successful and
right, and
rich.
like
Yeah.
she's like, oh, did I ruin his life too? Like it just
Mm,
kind of
Yeah.
that was
Right.
good. That was
that
good.
it was a good twist,
Yeah.
but the actor did a great job. But the one part I want to note to him is the speech where he tells her he's not weak, he's a fighter, but his fighting style is
Mm.
kindness, and his
Yeah.
survival
Right.
style, his fighting style is to be kind. And you actually see that as you watch him, if remember all his moves and what he did and how he kind of fixes stuff. She barrels through life and she does these things, and he's constantly kind of going behind her and trying to bro- smooth things over and make people like just like her more. It's this weird but interesting and fascinating use of fighting with kindness, or kill him with kindness. We've heard that term
Kill him
before,
with kindness.
right? And it's also an
Right.
important lesson for her as she gets to her main universe, where she understands her husband as much as she understands her daughter, as much as what they're doing and how she's interacting with them, and creates the
Yeah,
resolve around the
that was a
relationship.
great that was a great journey for her to go have gone on by herself.
All right, why don't we do grades? And if you guys want to call out either an actor, an action sequence, something that just memorable to you. James, obviously you don't believe this is memorable, so I'll go
No,
you
I
first.
memorable, but Brooks already hit the memorable scenes.
All
She already called them out.
right.
That one definitely will live with me
Yeah,
though.
dude. I went like, "Where's this movie going?" I shocked the hell out of me. I had to text Natalie like, "You didn't tell me about this part." Um, I'm gonna go ahead and give this an A minus. Um, I'm gonna definitely watch it again, but on first reaction, I'm giving the movie an A minus.
All right, Keith.
That's actually where I was going as well. A minus. I feel like I'm being a little bit like generous with movies and the content we've been reviewing. But like, yeah, like it kept my mind going, and I thoroughly enjoyed it from life lesson wise to what they did on the budget that they did to be able really to really depict like going through worlds and this that and I yeah A
Okay,
minus.
Mike.
Yeah, a movie for me. I also want to give a quick shout out to the dad, James Hong. Man,
Mm-hmm.
that
Old
guy,
school.
Good acting.
he's
OG.
fantastic. He's Yeah, he's got like 450 credits, acting credits to his name, like
Damn.
since the 50s, and he's still going
He just got
strong.
a
He was
star.
great
Yeah.
as the what was it, the Alpha
Yeah. Yeah.
Gong
Yeah.
Gong, right? Who was like kicking ass. I mean, he was great. So, but for me overall, I'm going to give this movie an
Okay.
A.
Wow.
A great, great
All right.
movie, I think. So,
Brooks.
I am going to give this movie like a C.
Whoa. Okay. 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 Okay.
I know.
Fuck.
I didn't love it.
Okay.
I didn't love it. It was like, I don't know. I mean, I got the idea, I got the gist, I got the themes. Like,
Not enough Fast and Furious for
I
you.
got all of that introspective shit. All the generational curses that we need to break within ourselves and like all of that stuff. But like it just was so out there sometimes that I was like I couldn't wrap my brain around it. So
All right.
yeah, I'm gonna go
All right.
see.
So I'm gonna say that
Big one too, though.
the two things actually stuck out to me. We already mentioned one, which is the rock scene, which was just like this stopper in the middle, and you're like, "Oh wow, we're just doing it. We're just doing the weirdest thing. Just like doesn't matter." Um, and then I'm gonna say the Ratatouille universe was
right, raccoon
Raccoony,
Oh, that
coon.
was funny. Oh, that's there with the dildo fight.
I love that.
and
That was
the
great.
fact that they
Yeah,
didn't just let the weird universes be a gag and walk away. They actually went into them several times and
Yes.
made Evelyn in that universe learn something as well.
right. She felt bad for what she did, and
Like
then
she
had it.
turned bad for a minute where she was like, fuck it, like yeah, I agree, I don't,
Yeah,
nothing matters, the nihilism hits. And then
right.
she kind of, wait a minute, no, that's not the life I want to live here. So it was really good turn of events. I'm gonna give it sorry Mike, I'm giving it an A straight A. I I at first, like, I was like, is this long? Is this slow? I'm connecting with the family a little bit, but then as it just moved, like I was just so invested. I was so invested in everything, in Evelyn, in her family, and I wanted them to be happy. And then I'm not even gonna spoil. I'm just gonna say there was a shocker scene just at the end of Act Two, or I don't know if that's the third act, and then they did a
I
whatever
thought the
the
movie was over. I
I
think I
thought
know
it
what you're
was
talking
over. I
about.
was
I thought the
100%.
movie was over. So
Me
I
too.
started texting Natalie, and I'm like, wait a minute. There's no credits. What's going on
I,
here?
I I literally stopped and I sat up and I went, "What? What did it? What?" And I was shocked, and I was 100% in. I knew I was 100% in at that point, and they got me, and I was like,
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
See, I had the opposite reaction when it was like the end. I was like, "Oh, thank God, I can stop watching this." And then I was like, "Fuck,
"There's
there's more."
more." So I guess you shouldn't watch The Northman then.
I
Oh.
I hated that movie so much, Chris, and I watched 5 minutes of the movie. Like I got up and I was like angry. I was like I had I don't even know. I even talking about it, I get so like I can't.
I don't
I
understand how
have
you
like
could
a
be angry at five
Okay,
minutes of
Mike,
a
that is
movie.
the opening
I,
for the
See, I
Northman
have to
episode
watch
right
this.
there.
Yeah, I have to
That's how,
watch this movie.
that's how I was
no,
with
don't watch
the
it.
last
Don't
Matrix
watch it.
Yeah,
movie.
no, that's
I
me.
actually watched
Our,
the first 10 minutes.
our quick peek for Northman will be up tomorrow, so you can
Bleh.
check
Wait,
out
what
our
was that,
review.
Keith? You talking about?
I watched the first 10 minutes, turned it
Of the
off.
Matrix, the new Matrix movie. Yeah,
Turned it off, and I didn't watch the rest of it until after talking to you guys and y'all telling me that the rest of the movie turns a little
a
bit better.
little bit
Like I was
better.
like, this is Like
A little bit better, not much.
But like that movie was like
I did enjoy
whatever.
the
Like
rest of it though. Nah, it turned around, but that first
I
10
can
minutes.
kind of like tune that out a little bit, but like the Northman, I had like a visceral reaction. Like I felt like I was gonna get violent and like hit something, or I don't like
Well,
I
that
just
was a
was
Your
like
perfect
Viking,
reaction for
it.
the movie.
your Viking blood was kicking in,
That was your
Blood.
Viking blood kicking in.
and
My
you're
Viking
revolting
blood.
it. Your brain was revolting against
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me, Mike. Where can people find us and talk to us about
And scene.
how much they loved everywhere, everything, all at once, or not?
All right,
it.
for 100% Northman content, you'll go to at Heroes Peak, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Nothing but Northmen all the time. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah,
Leave a
just wait
comment
till we
below.
all go through that wolf thing, the fires, and we're crawling around. And
I don't think James, you
Not
didn't watch it
yet.
yet.
I'll watch it this weekend.
All right,
I
check
just
it
found
out.
out I
Do
had
it
an
for
extra
yourself.
day off, so I'll watch it then.
just
All right.
just don't drink while you're watching it. You might do something you regret.
Nah, no Viking blood in me.
All right, everybody.
Or drink and pass out.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. You all have a great week, and we will see you next week. Top Gun time.
Bye.
Hey, Indigo made the beat.